the COMGO Z1 laser from Comgrow. If you space those words apart, you could say, but if you try to put it all together at once, you'll mess it up. Voice of experience. What I'm going to do here today is add air assist to this laser. Coming up. Hi, I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and as I mentioned, I'm going to be adding air assist to this COMGO laser. And if you're new to this, you know, what's an air assist for? It assists using air, hence air assist, in cutting and engraving. For example, if you're engraving on red cedar, it's notorious for scorching. With that constant stream of air there, it minimizes, doesn't completely eliminate it on red cedar, but it really minimizes the scorching and the amount of sanding you'll have to do afterwards. When you're cutting, it not only makes it cut a little bit faster by keeping the path clear, but it also will blow out any flame that happens to erupt, and that's never a good thing. That's why a lot of lasers have flame detectors. And the other thing it does is it really minimizes scorching. And I'm going to show you a tree here I cut with this laser without air assist. It's right here. So as you can see, there's a lot of brown scorching around the edges here. The air assist will eliminate that. And I'm going to take you through putting this on step by step. I have not opened this yet. I purchased this from Comgrow. This was not given to me. So I bought this. No paid advertisements here. We're going to see how well this works. I have air assist on several of my other lasers, both factory and homemade. And they all work very, very well. I will be using a honeycomb board underneath this so I don't spoil my spoil board. But first we're going to unbox this, find out what's in the box, and then we'll get on to putting this in, and I'll bring you in close, show you every step. So first you'll find on top there's a little instruction sheet here. I'll take a look at it briefly here. It shows you what is included. And it looks like you could use this on other brands of lasers too if you happen to have the right diameter nozzle. We'll look at that here shortly. And it gives you the different options here for the different heads they have and the different types. For example, you could put this on an X tool here they're showing. I already have air assist on my X tool lasers, but this could also be used there. It doesn't have the shield modification that I've done on the X tool, and there is a video on that if you happen to have an X tool laser. So what else we got here? Got some tubing with a brass fitting on the end, and this is a little bit stiff, but not too bad. We have some tape, masking tape, and we have a little bit of hardware in here, some zip ties, a couple of hose guides, a little teeny tiny screwdriver, and I mean tiny, and a couple of Allen wrenches. And here would be the nozzle. And here is another nozzle. So this is kind of a universal kit. And a couple different fittings here for going onto the nozzle depending on which laser you have. And this looks to be a modified shield. We'll get into this all in detail here. And one thing I see that I like is this air pump actually has a switch on it. And it looks like it's variable speed. We'll find out how loud it is and if it walks all over the table, because some air pumps vibrate like crazy or they're obnoxiously loud. We'll get this out of here and we'll get this plugged in and see what it sounds like. I got her plugged in here and unwrapped, and we'll fire it up, and boy, at low speed you can't even hear it. It does put out a little air at low speed. Crank it all the way up here. Pretty good stream of air. Doesn't walk all over the place, and it is fairly quiet. Once you have this hooked up, you won't hear quite as much. You'll still hear the hum from the air pump. That's not bad. Yeah, I've actually taken the laser head off of the laser just to make it easier to work on and be able to show you what I'm doing here. I'll give you an explanation of some of these parts. So if you're working on an X tool laser, you will need this, and this, and this, and the masking tape. So what's the masking tape for? That is to go around the lens on the laser so that this will fit tight. I had to do a little bit of messing around when I did my 3D printed one, so I'm familiar with that. So that's a couple of the parts we won't be using. The one with the offset top there for the airline guide, we won't be using that because we're going to be doing this on the 10 watt here. This one is for the 5 watt, although it does show it also here for the 10 watt. I'm not really sure what they're talking about here because it also shows this one. And they tell you to make sure you have 7 millimeters between this nozzle and your work surface. So we'll be doing some measuring there. So I'll get a couple of these parts out of the way here we're not going to need. Okay, position like this is how the laser mounts, or the laser head mounts on the laser. And of course this here is the removable shield. And there are no provisions for notching this or doing anything. I may get creative here and try to do something. But once you put this on, you won't be able to use this because the air tube will be in the way. I may figure out what I can do with that. Although it would make it very difficult to take this on and off. Well, once you do that, you will not be able to take this on and off. Unless I would actually make a U shape. Yeah, we'll see what I do here. So the first thing we're going to want to do is put this onto the lens. Actually, the first thing you want to do is make sure your lens is clean. Since I've been using this quite a bit, I'm going to take a minute here and clean the lens first. Okay, and to clean the lens, I just use a little bit of rubbing alcohol. That's what I keep in this little pump guy right here. You don't need a whole lot. You don't want to soak it and drip it and everything else. Just kind of get on there and make sure everything's cleaned up. Clean off anything else that's accumulated around it. And nice thing about the rubbing alcohol is it'll evaporate quickly. And I always use blue shop towel because rather than a regular paper towel or tissue because it does not leave any lint. So I have the module laying on its side, and the wires that are coming out of the module that go up into the little printed circuit board on the top, that's on the right hand side as you're facing the laser. So I'm going to take my what they call it, the blow fit, whatever they want to call it. I'll just slip that over the lens there so that the threads for this elbow here are sticking straight up, and tighten that little set screw against the lens housing. Yeah, don't get crazy with it. You don't want to crush anything in there. You just want it snug. This will swivel on the hex, as you can see here. So then this will screw into that hole there. And when you're done, you'll want that fitting pointing up. Like so, except I need to tighten that up a little bit. And I'm going to be a primitive Pete here and just use these needle nose because they're handy, rather than going and getting the proper wrench. This needs to be snug. You don't need to get crazy with it. So when you're done there, it'll look like this. As I said, that is adjustable. So I'm going to take a minute here and see if I can figure out something for the shield. Okay, after some further review and playing around with this, because of the cone that's on the inside, both pieces would have to be extensively modified and cut. So while I may do that sometime in the future, for right now I'm not going to. I did check my 7mm thing here for the focus, and we'll get to that here again in a minute. The focus plate they give you is 7mm, so you want to be 7mm from this point here on the end to your work surface. So what I'm going to do next is put this back on the laser, and then we'll put the airline guide back on the top. And I'm just picking a random spot here. I don't have anything set in stone here yet, as they say. Okay, and if you did the same and you need to reconnect these wires, the red and the black, which is the power, goes closest to the gantry. And they're keyed again. Don't plug them in wrong or try to force them. They should just slip right in. Make sure they're in there good. What we're going to need to do next is put this hose guide on right here. So these two screws will need to be removed. They are quite long, so it's going to take you a lot of turns to get them out. There's two M&Ms, by the way, if you're keeping track. I got tired of screwing with that little angled hex key. So So you just lift those two screws up. Don't lose those spacers underneath. Try to keep everything in alignment. As you can see, these are long. Just drop that down through your air guide here and don't lose a screw. And those screws will go right back in the same holes. And just tighten it back down. Don't go crazy here, you'll break that acrylic. They just need to be snug. Just like that. Next will be the air line, and one end has a brass fitting on. That is the one that goes on the hose on the air pump, so you'll want the other end. Just slip that down through the hose guide there. And it'll slip right into that fitting. Make sure it seats, and it'll latch. Now if you need to remove that, a lot of people seem to be confused on how you do that. There's a little collar here, and this is going to be kind of hard to show because it's black on black. The little collar here, if you push this collar down, you can pull that hose right out. And you get a hold of it. Like so. So get that plugged back in there. Make sure it's in good. Now I'll need to tie this on along with my wire harness up here at the top. So I'm going to pull the laser all the way to the left so that you have maximum travel. And here it's just a matter of taking some zip ties here. Make sure you leave a little slack here so you can go up and down with your laser head. Don't get it so tight you can't move it. So leave a little slack there so you'll be able to focus up and down. Something else you'll have to think about here is where you're going to put your air pump. You remember that this has to be able to travel completely on the y-axis. So you don't want to have your air pump somewhere where it's going to be starting to try to drag it. So what I'm going to do is actually tie my hose along with this, right along here with some ties, and I'll keep my air pump out over somewhere over here. So I'm going to bring this around the back, then come up underneath back here. Hopefully you can see that. It'll be coming up around like that. And I'll just let the hose follow right along with this wire harness here. Also, don't pull your ties so tight that you kink or crimp your air line. So then the air won't flow quite as well. And after you've got everything set, I'm going to move my power supply out of the middle of the board here. We don't hit something. Check your travel, make sure everything works well. Check your travel here. I may put a drag chain on this one of these days. But that'll work fine. It will not get into my work area. I just need to trim these up. Connection to the air pump is quite simple. This brass fitting here just simply plugs into this silicone type hose right here like so. You can turn this on. Well, that's short coupled there. And like I say, this is a lot quieter now, and you'll feel the air coming out underneath the nozzle there. So I'll get some stuff set up here. We'll try this out. One thing, definitely, when you're using a laser, you should wear goggles or glasses anyway. But because now we do not have a shield on here at all, I'll definitely have the goggles on. Okay, while I'm waiting for my antique computer here to boot up, I did lay my honeycomb base in here. And this is a piece of wood. You get this at like Dollar Tree. It's $1.25. It's a good thing to practice on. Focus plate underneath. There's your 7mm distance you need. So that's all set. The laser's not on yet. I haven't turned it on. Well, evidently I don't have this laser on this computer, so I guess I need to add that. Okay, I've got a graphic loaded here, and I'll turn the air pump on. And I'm using absolute coordinates because I'm starting from center on this project. It's just a small cutout of a cat silhouette. So what I want to do first here is frame it. Looks good. I need to put these on because I no longer have a shield. And away we go. 200 millimeters per minute, 100% power, 3mm plywood. Yeah, we didn't cut quite all the way through. That's unusual. It's a setting I generally use. Might be the wood too, because I have had that happen before. It's like the wood is actually a little thicker right there. We'll try it in another spot. Scorching though, yeah, there's just a tiny bit on the corners there, but there again it could be the wood, or it could be me running my thumb over that. Well, we'll give it another shot here. We'll set it up again. Try this on a different spot of that wood. Like I said, it was a little bit thicker in that one spot over there. We'll try it out over here on this side. Much better. Yeah, I'm going to do something a little bit more complex here with a lot more detail on it, some fine lines. So I'll take this out and frame it. Make sure we're in the right place. Looks good there, still 3mm plywood. And I'll start this one. Yeah, let's see what we got here this time. That's some fine detail there. I got to be a little bit careful or I'll break something here. Little bitty tip of the cat's tail right there didn't quite get cut all the way. Next X-Acto knife will work on that, and you can also use a little pick probe like this and just score that grain a little bit, and that'll get that to pop. You know, a little tiny spot right here. A lot of times this has to do with the grain of the wood. There we go. There's my little fashionable witch with her cat and her broom. So, does it work? Well, obviously it works. Here's another cutout I did. I've got quite a few of these to do, and I'm probably going to be running 3 or 4 lasers to do them. I've got a order for quite a few cutouts for a Halloween type thing. Any disadvantages to this? Well, the biggest disadvantage to this particular Air Assist, and I guess I don't need my beer goggles on, or the whiskey glasses. I guess they're laser goggles. The biggest disadvantage is you absolutely have to wear these if you're using the Air Assist on this laser, because you cannot use a shield. The other lasers I have that have shields, and even on this one the shield was on, and if I was just going to glance as I was walking by to make sure things were working okay, I wouldn't have my goggles on. If I was going to be staring at it for any length of time, even with the shield, yes, I wear the goggles. In this particular case, since there's no shield on there at all, and while it's cutting or engraving, you're absolutely going to have the glasses or goggles on, because that blue light will damage your eyes, even if it's just for a second or whatever. And make absolutely sure there's no kids around, no pets around. Kids will want to stare at that beam. Of course, cats and dogs will want to stare at that beam, so make sure you're in an area where there's no pets around and no kids. So, with the little safety tip out of the way, overall I'm happy with this setup. The honeycomb board I already had. That wasn't part of the upgrade here, but I did want to add Air Assist to this. I wanted to see what their kit was like. Generally, on quite a few other lasers, my Ortur, one of my X tools, and one of my Atom stacks, I've made my own Air Assist. On my second X Tool D1 Pro, I bought the factory Air Assist, and it performs just as well as the one I did homemade. I probably could have made one for this. I just wanted to see how well it would work, what it all came with, and obviously it's not restricted to just this laser. It comes with parts, you could use it on other lasers. Just there again, without that shield provision on there, that's a little bit of a downer. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up, always helps the channel. There'll be links in the description if you'd like to get either this laser or the Air Assist kit, or maybe even the honeycomb board. And this one is from a company called Make Like Sun, which I like to say because it's fun. Thanks for watching. I'm Roger in the shop. We'll see you in the next one.